Welcome to the Business Spotlight. My name is Jada Walker. I am your host for today's conversation. And my guest today is Brice Wilkerson. He is the founder and principal attorney at Cascade Counsel. We'll be talking about his business, journey to business ownership, challenges, best practices, and share a peek of what it's really like to build and operate a business. So, Brice, welcome to the show and thank you for being here today. I would love for you to share with us a little bit about your background, of who you are, and tell us a little bit about your business as well.
Jada, thanks for having me. Yeah, happy to talk about all that. So the first thing I'd say is law is my third career. Started as a professional gamer. If you Google Rule 18 LOL, you'll see some very unflattering YouTube interviews out there. Second career was as a property manager and real estate broker here in the state of Washington, primarily multifamily. And so then when I made the jump to law, it was natural to get in on the legal side of real estate. So legal practice wise, primarily real estate and landlord tenant. Went to school out in New York. It's a little bit off camera here, but I'm wearing the Hofstra labor and employment hoodie here. So wife and I were out on Long Island there for better part of 5 years. Uh, I start at Falcon Rappaport and Berkman, which was a rapidly growing boutique focused on real estate, tax, and trust and estates practice out there on Long Island. Um, when I came back home to the beautiful, rainy Pacific Northwest here in January of 24 to launch Cascade Counsel, the focus was on kind of pushing the mold and trying alternative fee structures and different forms of practice to expand access to justice. My first concept was sort of a subscription model, which we can talk about that another time. Probably requires a few more beers on the desk in front of us.
Yes.
Short of it is the product market fit for small residential landlords, which was my target, was not there.
Hmm.
More recently, and where we've seen a lot of growth is in shifting focus to plaintiff's practice for tenants. And here, there are entire counties without a single tenant rights attorney. And so rather than trying to create a market that's not there, we're filling a need that is being ignored. And there's a whole lot more we can dig into there, but I think I'm going to stop talking now.
Yeah, no, I actually, whenever I found out that you were that you helped with tenant stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, because I used to work in leasing here in Austin.
Okay.
And so I know a
Okay.
little bit about like, lease or renting places and
So
just dealing
what's
with
the joke
landlords.
about washing machines, right? You used to work in
Oh,
leasing. What's the joke about washing machines?
okay. I don't think we have this joke
Yeah,
here.
so
I don't
they
know.
they they always break at 6 p.m. on a Friday, right?
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, I do remember that. Yes. Yes. And then that's when everyone is calling and you're just like, oh
Yeah,
no, like
because they
maintenance
come
went home
home for the
literally an hour
weekend
and
and
a
they go
half
to do
ago.
it. They were too busy working, and then everybody's upset. The technicians, they work Monday
Yes.
through Friday too. Yes, yeah.
And it's like you have to
Sorry.
call emergency maintenance now because
No,
it's
no.
past the time. They used to get so mad. Oh my God. You
Yeah,
you definitely understand.
yes.
Wow, that is
Fun
hilarious.
times.
I totally forgot. It's been so long. I definitely forgot that joke. Wow. Now I'm gonna go to my friend and say something to her because she's like a property manager now, so
But yeah, no,
it's gonna
she'll
be
she'll
funny.
just kind of roll her eyes at you and be like,
Mm-hmm.
"No, this happened
She'll,
last week.
she'll
Go
literally be
away."
like, "Stop." And especially since it just got cold here again, like people are probably
Yeah.
talking about their ACs or
Oh, the
like
heaters
all of
too.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because they run them for the first time of the year, especially those old forced air units that
Yes.
nobody ever cleans out properly.
And it's
Yeah.
like terrible, terrible. Always have issues. Okay, so let's actually set the stage for our viewers and listeners. So, generally speaking, what does your current ownership structure look like? Like, are you just the sole founder or are there any outside investors, anything like that?
Yeah. So current structure is pretty simple. I am the sole member. We structured as a
Mm.
professional limited liability company. We did the S Corp election for tax purposes for anyone taking tax notes out there. This structure is not staying the same though. So in January of 25, the Washington State Supreme Court passed the entity regulation pilot. So this is
Mhm.
a new program in Washington that allows, among other things, non-attorney ownership. The rulemaking process was finalized in late October, and we're working on an application. So right now we've taken on some debt-based um, capital with the intent of converting it once approved. And so we have a couple different models for non-attorney equity in the longer term pending court approval.
Nice.
One of those is pretty cool. I would high level it as a mutual defense community for tenants, and that is a crowd-based structure under the Washington State Blue Sky laws. And then the other is a more conventional uh, profit share model, similar to what you'd see in real estate syndication.
Cool. That's nice. So would you say, since you work with like both like tenants and the landlords, who would you say that you work with the most? Like, would it be more of like the land on the landlord side, or would it be more on like the tenant side?
Yeah, so that's
Had,
changing. Historically, we were primarily representing landlords. It was maybe a 90-10 mix. Um,
oh,
and
nice.
historically, landlords are the more conventionally attractive client. It's
Mm-hmm.
repeat business, it's more stable. From a conflicts perspective, you're not worried about missing out on opportunities. You're less worried about them being unable to pay their bills and so on and so on. Most common claims or matters for landlords are typically evictions and corporate structuring. We'll also get a fair amount of real estate transactions and sometimes related estate planning or succession planning. That said, that market is crowded. That is where all the law firms are and is what everybody wants to do. And
Yeah.
that is not where we've been seeing our growth. And so we have shifted focus to the tenant side and expect that to invert and to be 90-10 the other way. Uh, the
I actually
particular
really
impetus for that, go ahead, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you were done. I was gonna say I actually really like that because here in Austin, like I've ran into a lot of people who don't even know, like tenants that don't even know that they have like their tenant rights or like where to even go to
Yeah,
receive information to know these things. And I always tell people, like I used to tell people whenever they would walk or whenever they would move in, or even if they weren't gonna move in with us, I would say make sure that you know this information because you don't want to get screwed down the line. Like I'm just letting you know.
yeah. Well, and it's not even always getting screwed. The tenants not knowing is just as true for small landlords. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak to Texas, but here in Washington, some studies show, as much as 85 to 90% of matters in this space go completely unaddressed, not pro se, not in court, not negotiated, just not even contemplated. Washington was also the first, and I think still only state that enacted a pro bono counsel law for low-income tenants to do eviction defense. And so that's been in place now for several
Oh, that's
years, and we've got some
nice.
really good data on the impact it's had. And it
Yeah,
it dropped those numbers by as much as 30% and gave much more positive outcomes for the tenants. Those programs, though, were very limited. It's it's
yeah,
it's triage only for tenants facing eviction and only at that final point once they've got a hearing date. So there's a whole range of other issues that are just not even being addressed. And like I mentioned earlier, there are entire counties without even an attorney. So
yeah.
the state of play, if you assume, that's the opposition, how are landlord attorneys and how are landlords conducting themselves? Um, we find they are rather complacent and reliant upon the status quo. Just because this has worked the last 9 times doesn't mean it was the correct outcome those 9 times. That's been our experience.
No, Well, that is something else. So, whenever you look at your role, how many hours do you spend working in your business, like the job? And then how many do you spend on the business for like strategy or planning or anything like that?
Yeah, so my mix is not where I would want it to be long term, and it fluctuates. One of the joys of being a small business owner is that you wear all the hats and the buck stops with you.
Right?
So if you haven't set yourself up for success and made time to work on the business, uh, then the business will work on you. Uh, So if when I am able to time block and get the time I want, I shoot for about a 50-50 split. And the goal is to shift that more towards the long-term planning and on the business. We have a couple of particularly aggressive efforts right now. Getting close to deployment. If you ever watch those cooking shows, it's kind of like when they start doing that countdown. All the all the components are ready to go and they're doing the mad
Right. And
dash
they're
to
like
plate.
rushing to get every
Yeah,
little
yeah.
last
And the
thing.
crowd's cheering and then you drop some sauce on the floor and it's a nightmare, right? But
But you're like,
um,
oh
so that's kind of where we are for a couple of big projects. One of them is a direct-to-consumer contingency-based campaign for unlawful rent increases. So back in May,
no. I think I read
Washington
something on
State,
your website.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in May, Washington enacted House Bill 1217. It's since been codified RCW 5918-700. What makes it unique is that it authorizes one-way claims from tenants against their landlords for unlawful rent increases with mandatory attorney's fees and penalties. And so that's the big change. If the
Wow.
tenant wins, the judge has no discretion and must award fees. So it changes the calculus because most of the other claims are at the judge's discretion, and often the
Mm-hmm.
jurisprudence will say, okay, well, this had to be a willful violation, and willfulness is a state of mind. You have to have known it was wrong
Right.
and done it knowing it was wrong, and that's really tough to prove. So when a tenant is doing the math and they can't afford to pay hourly or flat fee, and so they
Mm-hmm.
have to, do a contingency, then the attorney has to do the math, right? So if the attorney is thinking, all right, well, I've got a 70% chance of winning and maybe a 5% chance of proving willfulness, so I'm not getting attorney's fees, and this claim is worth $1,000. That means the expected value of this claim is like $700. My contingency is 450. That pays for 45 minutes of my time, right? And so it totally changes that math because if
Yeah.
attorney's fees are mandatory and you've got a 70% chance of winning, okay, now this isn't worth 350 to me. This is worth 350 plus 70% of my time. All
Yeah.
right, that's huge. That's a game changer.
Yeah. No, because then it actually makes you want to, yeah.
And
It
which is the
actually
whole
makes you
point. That
want
is
to
the
help.
entire point of the statute is to encourage private attorneys to get involved and to
That
provide
is
that
so
service. The
nice.
entire point. Yeah.
Yeah, because yeah, that makes so much more sense. I'm like, why weren't these things just already like in place? Like certain things that just come to light. I'm like, yeah, like it just should have already been a thing. Like,
It's with housing in particular, it's very emotionally charged, and you get
mm-hmm,
a lot of us versus them, and the stakes are very high. And with the lack of access to justice, this is my theory anyway, with the lack of access to justice, and no one's able to use the tools that are there. So when you see this continuing, each side will just ratchet up the tools and the stakes, and no one's addressing, that practical
the actual
component.
issue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
that's so
using
nice.
what's in the toolbox already.
Okay, so before we get to the nitty gritty of your business itself, let's take a look at your background and to what led you here. So, why did you choose to go into business for yourself as opposed to choosing to work for someone else?
Yeah, so the market told me to. Um, I had, I guess we'll focus. This isn't my first business or the first time I've done something, but I'll focus on Cascade Counsel.
So
Uh,
you're like a serialpreneur.
yeah, so I guess I'm predisposed to it, but for law and Cascade Counsel in particular, because I had gone the business track. I enjoyed my time at Falcon and was doing the associate track and
Right.
had a very special relationship with the senior partners there and had the opportunity to do a lot of special projects and tech development and firm ops and um, so that was great and a wonderful experience and could have continued. They decided to focus on a regional expansion plan, focused
Oh,
out of New York. Bless you. And
thank you.
I wanted to
Sorry.
come back to Washington. And so at that point, we had to part ways.
Part
I
ways.
tried to get employed here out in Washington. And what I found was in the legal industry, because remember, I said this is my third career.
Mm.
Everyone looked at the bar admission date. Every partner I talked to, every hiring manager I talked to, every recruiter I talked to said, yeah, okay, great. You know, you're a first year associate. We're going to start you over. Here's what it looks like. Um, and do not pass go, do not look at the rest of the resume. And so I bet on myself and said, here are the numbers. Here's what it would take to replace my salary. I can do that no problem. And I did within 6 months, and it's been
That is
all
crazy.
gravy
Six
from
months?
there. Yeah, we had a whole thing going on personally too. The movers we hired, it's a whole thing. We've got several active lawsuits still, but uh, we got here. Wife got here, dogs got here. Stuff didn't get here, but we got here and
No,
been chugging along ever since.
that's cool. Because I'm like, not a lot of people can actually come out of a business and start a business and be successful. Like that was fast. You
Well,
said 6 months. I'm still
yeah,
like,
so I mean
like that's
that's the great thing
crazy.
about a service business, right? Like if you can provide the service and you can speak to it, you can start at the, job replacement level in a service business overnight almost. Took me maybe a month or two of planning and getting ducks in a row, insurance, software, etc. Um,
Look, if I ever
Marketing
start a
wasn't even
business,
really
I'm
required.
hitting you up on LinkedIn. I'm like, I need some business advice. 6 months, I need it.
Well, so that's the tricky part, right? Like that's easy, being at that level of business, just replacing your job as a service provider for a valuable service. Uh, okay, right? You can kind of fall into that, but scaling and hiring has been a
Yeah.
much bumpier road, and certainly more difficult.
Yeah, I bet. Especially like, yeah, moving from another area to one area and not knowing who all is there, maybe. Like, I definitely
Yeah,
understand that.
at least I got the benefit of coming home, so
Yeah, of
that's
course.
good.
So, as you look back on your journey so far, what has been the most memorable roadblock or hurdle that you were challenged with and that you were forced to overcome?
Yeah, so recall what I described originally for the subscription model. Um, I had it in my head on paper. This was so great. Landlords would be proactive. It lets us focus on counseling rather than being in court. It's better for them. It's better for tenants. It's better for the courts. It's better for
Mm-hmm.
me. Uh, but this would have required small mom and pop landlords to think 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ahead and be
Mm.
ready to pay in advance. And it turns out, recall the enforcement environment I described earlier, where maybe 90% of claims aren't even brought. It turns out that by the numbers, you're better off just not complying and risking it because 9 times out of 10, you're going to get away with it. So the math did not check out. It was a very poor product market fit. And I learned the hard way, as much as I loved it, as great as I thought it was, that I need to meet the market where it is, and
Yeah,
I cannot change it. So
right.
that was definitely the biggest blocker, and that was how we overcame it, I suppose, although I would say more like we accepted it. So I don't know.
Do you think that this had like any type of impact on your growth as a business owner?
Yes. Yeah. Well, so growth as a business, we kept hitting that wall and it was blocking growth.
Mm-hmm.
Growth as a business owner, I would say it was an object lesson in humility.
Mm,
You have to
I like that.
listen to the market. The market's not going to listen to you.
I like that. That's good advice. Because that's so true. It's almost like whenever you like, it's like tell God your plans and you know that type
Yeah.
of thing. I like that. So as you look back, or I'm sorry, so I have yet to encounter a business owner who hasn't had peaks and valleys on their journey of building a business. So how do you manage those difficult days?
Dogs and food. It's like 80% of our personality, my wife and I, outside of work. We've got three pups right now, K-Sound, Bearded Collie, Corgi. Got into
Oh,
showing during the pandemic. We travel every other weekend or so.
like showing your
So
dog?
yeah, yeah. So they do different
You
events.
go
They
to
do
dog shows?
conformation, they do agility. We're working on scent work. They love it. They have so much
I
fun that
love
the
that.
yeah.
That is
So
awesome. I
between
love
that
dogs, so
and
yeah.
food, that's our escape. And we definitely make sure there's time for that.
I feel like you're like living the life I want to live because like my
Ah,
dog actually just passed, so like I probably won't have another dog for
sorry
a
to hear
couple more
that.
years. Yeah, it's okay. Thank you so much. He passed like back in October, but I'm fine now. But I love dogs. I used to work at a pet supply store and
Okay.
I used to want to work in like there was a part that was attached where it was grooming. I used to want to do the grooming,
Mm,
but they used to have
okay.
all these people come in there. There was actually a guy, he breeds corgis. And he would
Yep.
show us all the pictures. He'd be like, "Yeah, like this one I just sold. Like he's living in Texas now. This one's living
Oh,
in
yeah.
like just
For
all
the
over." And he would
high-end
be like,
kennels, like that's their thing
"Yeah,"
because
and
you
he
get
like
your points and that's your title. That's what makes the pedigree valuable. And
yes. And
yeah.
he said that his dogs have been in commercials before. I was just like,
Oh,
wait a minute, excuse me. Like they were literally in
okay.
one of like the Powerball commercials. And I was like, that is
That's not
insane.
even
Like,
dog related. That's like just general commercial market. That's
right?
wow.
Exactly. I was like, yo, your
Impressive.
dogs are famous, famous.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to love, yeah, I love
There's
animals.
the
And
whole
when
social
anyone tells
media
me stuff,
angle too now.
yes. I'm like, I wish I would have got my dog into social media. He would have been perfect. He was so cute and just had like the most perfect coloring. I was like, yeah.
Well, so
Anyway,
the thing
sorry.
I would say about the show communities and the clubs is it is a dying hobby, and the
Yeah.
population is aging. It kind of varies by breed, but for ours, everyone's 55 plus on average. And so anytime a
Oh,
young person shows interest, the
they're probably
community is
like, yes.
exceptionally welcoming. Yeah, so they make sure that you get connected, that you have everything you want. They're all
Oh,
super friendly. So the good news is if you decide to get your next dog involved, uh, they will welcome you with open arms. It's a lot of fun.
no, really, I should. Look, that's like a whole little side conversation we just dogs in
That's
the
good
dog
advice
show.
for
That's
any dog
hilarious.
viewers out there. Yeah.
Right. I'm like, I'm sure there's some on here.
Yeah.
So let's move on actually to what makes your business so special. So you serve a couple different people. So who do you primarily, wow, I can't speak. Who primarily does your business serve? Like if I were in the audience, how would I know that I am a good fit for your service?
Yeah, so if you're watching this podcast, you probably aren't a good fit for my service. We are primarily targeting residential tenants. We are primarily targeting low to moderate income people with awful landlords in Washington. So
Look,
that's
I need
kind
you
of
to be
our
here. I
subset.
have an awful landlord. This is like the perfect person for me to interview today.
Anyway, so that's kind of who we're targeting, and in terms of targeting, we have this opposite problem. There's such a need in the market, we can't handle it. And so that is the problem we struggle with. whenever we do any marketing or advertising, we get more response than we can handle. And
Oh,
so
wow.
in the traditional legal model, and this is, I'll get up on my soapbox a little bit. Um, when I, backing up, when I was working for Falcon Rappaport and on the Labor and Employment Journal, I took 2 years and did a note. So that's like a big research project and scholarly article. And I did it on the subject of attorney fees and fee structures, looked at the history and looked at trends, et cetera. And
Hmm.
one thing that stood out to me looking at reports from practice management providers like Clio and Lexis was over time you would see a number of legal matters going up, people with legal claims going up, attorneys going up, associates per attorney going up, profits going up, right? But what stays flat? Amount of claims unaddressed. And
Hmm.
so, what does that imply? What does that mean? It means that the traditional and mainstream model for profitability, firm profitability, is screening. It is making sure you're getting the creme de la creme and taking only the most profitable clients, which is good advice from a profit perspective and is what a lot of other businesses do.
Right.
But to me, it also indicated an opportunity from a disruption, a low market disruption perspective, which is to instead focus on that other underserved community. So instead of focusing on how do I screen better, find the best clients for me, we flipped that on its head and we said, how do we find the best services for the clients in front of us? And that was that's been borne out 110%. Now what we're struggling with is how to dial that back and find the line where we are providing access without being completely overwhelmed. And that's a tuning process.
Yeah, I bet it is. Because I'm like, I know whenever people start to find out, like, oh, I can actually get help with this. Of course, they're gonna jump on it, or they're gonna tell the next person. So it's like word of mouth. So everyone just keeps coming. Like I get it. I definitely get it because it's almost like whenever we would be in leasing and someone would find something out, and then like the resident would
Yeah.
go tell other
Then all the
residents, and it would
neighbors find
come, and
out.
I would be
Yeah,
like, ah,
yeah.
like why did you tell?
Yeah. And ChatGPT makes it even better now. Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, right. I used to be like, get off, like stop
It's
doing
actually
that.
getting better. Like the 3 and 3.5 was given some really wild advice, but by
It
the time it
was.
got to 4.0, it was actually doing better than some attorneys I've seen, and 5 is um, probably on par with the average first year associate at this point. Yeah.
So since we're talking about like AI, I actually like have a question. So do you feel as though AI is kind of helping with your business, or do you think it's kind of like taking away from your business?
So both. I
Mm,
am an avid AI user. It is a tremendous productivity multiplier which helps me deliver more value to my clients and save time. However, uh, the traditional legal billing model is by the hour. So if I'm saving time,
you're
right,
like,
is like directly opposed to my, yeah, it was wild. When I was getting admitted here in Washington, part of it is a state ethics test, and they make you watch a bunch of videos. This was right at the very beginning of AI, I guess in like late 23. And the
mm,
video I watched had this ethics professor who, it basically made the same comment and said, "So be careful. Don't use AI to be too productive, or you won't have a job." And it's like, wait a minute.
you're like, hold on,
What
what? I
happened to
want a
client
job.
service? What happened to all our ethics and ideals? So the answer for us has been um, to shift to the contingency-based model and other models outside of hourly, and that helps us capture those productivity gains. One of the biggest changes for me is with our legal research tools. We're able to do some pretty advanced queries and get responses, not quite real time, but within a couple
Hmm.
minutes. And that's quick enough that you can have it going in the middle of a conversation. And so you can actually answer two, three, four of these questions in a single
Yeah.
30-minute meeting rather than having to reschedule weeks later. And so the amount you can get done, like from a calendar perspective,
Hmm.
is wildly different.
Yeah, that's nice. Because I was just gonna say, then yeah, you don't have to keep coming back. I mean, it's not like the greatest for you, like you said, because you're billed by the hourly or whatever. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah, but
still,
from a conversion perspective, at least. So if you're
hmm,
able to answer all those questions in a single consult, then, instead of swapping a dozen emails over a month now and chasing a
yeah,
retainer, we can have that engagement letter signed same week. So
that's
that's a
so
big
nice.
change.
Yeah, that's so nice. Yeah, I would definitely
Good
be like,
value for the
yeah,
client too.
let's do the
Yeah.
AI. Yeah, exactly, and like not dragging it out and then having them probably a little angry because like you're not answering them right away. That's great.
Yeah, it's
That's what
wild.
I'm
So the
like.
one
AI
we
is the best.
use is Lexis Plus AI. It used to be called Protege. And it's all the conventional legal research tools,
Hmm.
just with a chat interface for the search. And when you get your results, everything's laid out with all the different links and case sites and source material. And so you're not even necessarily trusting it for the answer, but it kind of gives you an outline of the materials you should look at. And so you click through those, and you're able to uh, get a lot of these, at least at a top level, very quickly.
That's nice. What is one thing that you wish more people knew about your business?
So the knee-jerk answer is I wish more of our client, this is probably a messaging thing and something we're working on. I wish more of our clients remembered and trusted uh, that we would honor our 100% satisfaction guarantee. And so
Hmm.
a little bit unusual for law firms, but I write it in. It's actually a term of the agreement. It's not just some ethereal policy we can change, but it's a term of the agreement. If the client is not satisfied, we will waive up to 100% of the charges. And I get so many people, well, not so many, most people are happy, but for people who dispute their bills, um, I don't think I've had a single one who has pointed to that policy and remembered. So you know, like we're going out of our way to make it as favorable as possible. And our starting point is if we can't make you happy, then we'll give you your money back. And I guess just the norm in the market is such that attorneys suck, and so people come in ready to fight, right? And so I wish we could skip past that and go straight to
No,
making them
really.
happy.
Because I'm like,
And I
I wish I would. I'm sorry, I have to cut you off real quick. Because
No, go ahead.
I got in a car accident and
Uh-huh.
like I really didn't even think about contacting an attorney. And then I actually interviewed an attorney months later and was talking to him about it. And I was like, wow, I really should have contacted an attorney. So I'm like, it's not even bad to be talking to an attorney. I don't know why there's such the stigma of like, just stay away,
I
stay
don't know.
away. Like, no, we need you.
Some of them are awful, and the search
Yes.
process is awful because it's all that screening I talked about. So you have to like pitch your case to attorneys. You have to talk to like a dozen, and a bunch of them
And
make you
that's
pay
where
for
I'm
the
like,
consult. And so it's an unfortunate state of the market, and that is something we're still working on, is improving that messaging, just to try to build more confidence and trust in our clients. And um, yeah, you would think things like bolding, underlining, all caps would do it. It does not. So I will let you know when I figure out what makes it stick.
no, really, it's like you gotta have some type of like cheesy commercial or something, like some
Yeah,
type of ad for people to
tagline or
remember.
a
Almost
mascot or
like
I don't know.
one of those ones, the creditreport.com ones, like those ones used to be the best commercials ever, I swear. Like, cause I still remember those little jingles to this day. Like, have you ever
All
seen those
right,
ones?
I can't
Oh
remember. No,
no!
what comes to
What?
mind is
I'll have
the
to.
Allstate guy, or not Allstate. What is it? The
Oh,
guy who gets hit by cars, chaos. Um, Shoot, I can
it's
remember the
not.
campaign, but not the company.
I feel like I remember who you're talking about, but yeah, I can't remember the company right now. I'm gonna find one though later. I'm gonna email it to you. You're gonna think it's so funny. Well, I hope you think
Eh,
it's funny. I there's such old
Oh, it
commercials,
is
but
Allstate, and his name's Mayhem. The character's name is Mayhem. Okay,
yes,
that guy.
yes. Okay. Cause I was like, I swear it is like it's like Allstate or like Geico, one of those ones. But yeah, I'm gonna find one for the freecreditreport.com one, and I'm
Okay,
gonna email it to you.
sounds good.
Oh my God. Okay, so we're actually gonna switch over and we're gonna talk a little bit about marketing. I always think that this is something vital to every business out there, and it's often an area that many business owners struggle with a little bit. But it seems like you haven't been because you said that you put out some ads and it's like you have a overflow of people. So
Yeah,
I'm
we're
actually
scared to turn ads
curious.
on. Yeah.
I'm actually curious about what successful businesses are doing. So, do you know what percentage of your monthly sales is typically invested back into your marketing budget?
My marketing budget is less than $100 a month. I
Ah,
do minimum spends. I am not the right person to ask about this. We just fundamentally have not had to engage in this area of the business.
well,
Um,
at least you haven't had to yet. Like, I mean, I feel like that's like a good thing because it's just
yeah, good for us, bad for your viewers. I have zero advice because we have not experienced it.
that's all right. Um, so maybe we'll actually kind of just skip through this one because there's not much to really talk about.
I have
Um,
nothing to add. Sorry.
okay. So moving from marketing to sales, what does your sales process look like?
Yeah, so it usually starts with a consultation. Usually we are presented with a fact pattern. We do a little bit of analysis. In a lot of cases for tenancy, we're looking at documents, things like leases and notices. And then there usually are a lot of questions about what the engagement will look like, what the legal process will look like, expected times, expected costs, expected outcomes, risks. And so once we've addressed those questions to everyone's satisfaction, and if we believe the case is worthwhile to the client, then we propose engagement terms and we have an hourly offer we can do, a fixed fee offer we can do, contingency fee offer we can do. And sometimes in special circumstances, we'll kind of hybridize or tailor that to the client's particular needs. And so we prepare that, we put the options together, we send it to them and let them review for as long as they want. I always put a timer on everything. That was something I learned from leasing. So we do a 2 week default, but and I make this abundantly clear. If anyone ever asks, we always give more time. The thing is, though, that expectation-wise, we always want to be setting some sort of deadline to keep things moving.
Mm-hmm.
Also is a good screening tool. So if you've got someone who's not serious or who isn't in a place where they can focus right now, then they're the person who's going to let that time out and not tell you anything until 3, 4, 5 weeks later.
I like your little process. So you had mentioned a few team members where possible, and I feel it's important to address the topic of building a great team. And you did say you are kind of having an issue with hiring and retaining people. So let's kind of talk about that. What has been your approach to hiring and retaining team members?
Yeah. So for me, the thought process was I need to supplement my abilities. And so to hire what is complementary and what I don't have. And then later for more junior hires, how to buy back time and how to serve more clients profitably. As we went through this process, the first thing I needed to add was litigation. And so I focused on a senior litigation hire. What both he and I failed to appreciate was the significance of the underlying substantive legal areas. And so he didn't have as much of a background in real estate
Mm,
or landlord tenant, which meant it's a callback to your earlier point about working in versus on the business. meant I was continuing to work in the business for those substantive matters.
Mm,
So if we had it to do again, I would have been better suited, instead of thinking of those as two separate things, what do I not have and buying myself time back, and held out for both. I needed someone who was going to do both for me.
yeah. So what type of training do you have in place for your team members?
Yeah, so we were definitely building the plane as we were flying it. Um, the starting point was a list of resources, a 4 hour block on the first day where I personally went through everything with everyone and getting all their accounts configured for them, kind of white glove service before the first day. As we grew, I have an ops person who came on and was able to start doing some of that for me. But that was kind of it. That was where it stopped. And then we would go from there as needed, hopping on screen shares and talking through previous matters or going through red lines and providing written feedback. Um, Moving forward, and what we've started to develop is we've formalized many of those learnings and best practices as policy documents and training manual documents and gotten those organized, instead of
Yeah.
always looking at former matters and saying, okay, do it like this, but make these changes. We've started to formalize templates with notes and instructions, and we're looking at learning management software like Udemy to kind of put everything in one place and build a more formal program. We're also, where applicable in the background, making choices with our tech stack and processes so that they're as invisible and low friction as possible. So what's better than teaching an attorney how to do something is them not having to do it in the first place. And so those are kind of the different approaches we're taking.
I like that. It's always nice to hear like people actually have a plan like for their like company
Yeah,
like because some
it
people
would
are
be
like, oh, we're
nicer
not really doing
to
anything.
be done with it and have it.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't think we get that much credit for having a nice idea. We have to put it into action to get full points.
Well, you're still newer, so it's like I give you the props
All
that,
right.
that are needed. Take your
All
flowers.
right. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
So let's move forward and look at what's to come next. So where do you see your business in the next 3 to 5 years?
So it's a little tough to say. There
Hmm.
are a lot of question marks regarding that pilot program I mentioned. So I'm not going to make predictions based on that. The biggest thing that we do have control over is in getting this first mass market campaign off the ground and building that mass market direct to consumer, direct to tenant machine. And if and when we get that rolling, that is a fundamentally different model of practice that we will continue to build on. So there are plans for adjacent practice areas. That senior litigator I mentioned, his background is as an employee side employment. So a very
Hmm.
similar model is to do wage and hour and discrimination claims and those sorts of things. There's a
That's
lot of overlap
cool.
with tenants
Not
too,
cool
right?
about that, but like,
Yeah, most common reason someone's having trouble is they're not paying. Most common reason they're not paying is, their income has been disrupted. Most common reason income's disrupted is they've had an employment issue, and vice versa. If someone's having an employment issue, eventually they're going to be having a housing issue. So there's a
mm,
lot of overlap. The model is very similar. The types of claims are very similar. A very similar, I keep using the word similar.
that's
Another
okay.
such practice area or model is unemployment claims. And so um, there literally are no private practice attorneys because you're making claims against the state, and fees are
Oh.
prohibited. You cannot get fees or
Oh,
penalties.
wow.
The best you can do is get what you are owed. You don't even get interest. So
Like what?
the attorney would have to be taking a percentage, and anyone who is doing that kind of work and is service oriented feels awful about taking
I
that
bet,
percentage.
yeah. Because it
So
is like
it
I'm taking your money that you just
right.
won. Like, oh my gosh.
So the attorneys who are doing it out there are doing it in nonprofit clinics that are funded by grants. Okay,
Oh, that's
great.
nice.
But yeah,
Right.
but that's not enough to
Yeah,
address,
no.
the other 80% of people out there. And so
Right.
one of the attorneys we work with spent years and years in those clinics, and she said, "Oh yeah, no, it's night and day the outcomes my clients have. The vast majority don't even know they're eligible for claims." And she said the most common fact pattern is when someone quits and thinks they're not eligible because they quit, but they
Mm,
quit because they refuse to engage in an illegal practice. An example would be an illegal tip pool in the restaurant industry. So if you've got
yeah.
like a manager who's taking tips and an employee is frustrated and quits, they think,
This is
oh,
funny
I
that
don't
you
get
mentioned this.
unemployment, and they don't even apply. But no, they do get employment. It is the manager who is in the wrong and should be held to account. And it is a very easy claim for an attorney to make. The problem is there's no market for that. And this person
Yeah.
doesn't even know education wise. So for her, if we were to add that, I think the social media campaign writes itself. And I think we
Hmm.
do a series of like YouTube video or not YouTube, Facebook Reels and TikToks. And she just goes through like these funny hypotheticals over dramatized, right, about these different
Yeah.
use cases. But then that becomes clear and people know. And from a product standpoint, how do we sell to it? That's another great application of AI and the tech we're doing. And so instead of charging a contingency, we can build a tech product and we can sell a license and we can stand by it with hourly counseling as backup if they need the extra muscle.
Wow. I'm like, you're really educating me. I'm like, I need to talk to you after this. Whenever you said something about a restaurant taking tips from their employees, I was like, I know someone who's actually going through
Right,
that
right.
right
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
currently.
Yeah,
So I'm like, yeah, I'm about to talk to you after this. Oh
it's
my gosh.
wild. And there's so many other consumer claims. Again, there are a lot of great tools out there. The problem is the access to justice, and the current legal model is simply incompatible. And instead of moving down market to reach more people, it's moving up market to be more profitable.
Hmm.
And so how do you bridge that gap? And ours is one answer.
Yeah, no, this is I've been loving this conversation. Like you have a really interesting story. So actually, as we wrap up, I have a few rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. What is the key to success for you?
Okay, one word, giving,
Wait, what was it?
giving.
Giving. I love that. Okay. What is one piece of advice for other business owners?
Listen,
And do you currently have a book or podcast that you're reading or listening to?
yes. Okay, one word doesn't really work for that. So podcast wise, I have really appreciated practical AI for anyone who wants to learn more and see uh, how other businesses are using it and what's happening. It's great. AI in business is another good one for that. Those are both podcasts. On the book side, uh, what sort of serves as the foundation for my whole approach to business is The Go Giver. So that is another one that I would recommend.
I
And
actually
they've
think
got their
I
five
have the Go
laws of
Giver.
stratospheric success. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a
Yeah,
short little
I'm pretty sure
parable.
I have it literally out there with all my books right now.
It's a little cheesy, but it makes a good point, and I think those
It
five laws
does.
are good goals.
Yeah. Okay, so one more. This is kind of a fun question. If you had a bit of magic dust and you could choose one spot of your business to sprinkle it, where would it be?
I'd just have, an extra 7 days in the week. That would be wonderful.
No, for real. I'm like, more time, that's what I need. Okay, so before we get into the final question of the day, could you please share with our audience how they can follow you, learn more, and contact you?
Yeah, again, I don't believe there's a whole lot of overlap here on the business side. Uh, that said, for anyone who wants to chat personally, I can be reached on LinkedIn. You can search for Brice Wilkerson. That's the page I have, Brice with an I, or you can search Brice Wilkerson Cascade Counsel or Brice Wilkerson Attorney, and you'll find me on LinkedIn pretty quick.
Awesome. Well, we've come to the final question, and that is what is inspiring to you today?
So, uh, impact, the value our services have for our clients and the change we can bring, and it's very rewarding. I enjoy serving my community. It is a privilege. Uh, so, that's kind of the other benefit to working for yourself. Uh, So I can set my calendar. I can do right by my employees, by my community, by my client, by my profession. I can give value consistently to all those people, uh, and that is tremendously rewarding.
Yeah, I bet it is. Yeah, because I kind of have like another side job where I do a service for people, but so I know exactly what you mean. It just makes you feel a little good inside to be able to help that person. Yeah, I love that. Well, this was a great conversation, Bryce. I really enjoyed hearing your story, so thank you so much. And also, I encourage all of you that are watching to save this show and come back and watch it again because Bryce really did have some great insights for business. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so that you can get notifications every time a new conversation drops, just like this one. Thank you to everyone who joined us today, and a special thank you to you, Bryce, again for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jada. Great to be here.